Anyway, we saw over the weekend. So first, let's start with Thursday, the by-election in those 6 by-elections that were taking place around the country, and the violence that we witnessed, and then starting into Friday, going into Saturday and Sunday, the conversations that then emanated, especially from the ODM side of the handshake. And now the whole conversation shifted into, okay, now, we are getting towards the moment when we commemorate the handshake, March 10th, 2008, in 2 days' time. We celebrate the handshake, but already there are jitters. First of all, is Raila being played? Are there forces within the government in civil service who are supporting another camp? And this is the emergence of this other camp of Musalia and the others. Is this the game that they are playing? What game is being played? Are we going to be finding ourselves being hoodwinked and getting out of, running out of options? Is there somebody in some senior government office who was engineering the violence that we saw during the by-elections so that the results and the outcome can be a certain way? So all this was the headlines on Saturday, was the headlines on Sunday, is the headlines today. Today's headline is Uhuru's night call that calmed Raila. So ODM leadership within Nairobi was organizing this particular major rally yesterday, and where Raila was going to come and make some pronouncements, and it took the president to call him and tell him, boss, you and I shook hands. You and I sat down and had a conversation. You and I have been talking. Do not be swayed by any other conversations out there. Be easy. This union of ours is intact. So he says that his union is intact. And that's why the ODM leader then did not turn up in yesterday's meeting. However, those leaders who were speaking in yesterday's meeting, including our next guest for the next hour, Babu Owino, were there and were saying, no, the handshake is timam. If Raila had come and the call had not taken place, would the leaders have said the handshake is timam, or would they have said what we had seen happening over the weekend on Saturday by Orengo, by people like the other MPs, and they were saying, there's trouble in paradise. Our guest is in the studio, the MP for Embakasi East, Paul Ongeli Owino. Babu Owino, good morning.
Morning. How are you?
Very well. Thank you very much for joining us.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning, Karibu.
Welcome to the Situation Room. We call that the hot seat. It's not really hot. It's just,
It's not even warm, actually. It's just a seat.
Psychologically warm.
Psychologically hot.
But we'll ask you the same question at the end of the show.
Yes.
So, Babu, asante for coming. Let's just start with the weekend politics as we go into everything else. Is the handshake intact from where you see it as Babu Owino?
I think so far so good, because this contract was between Raila Amolo Odinga. The contract was between Raila and Uhuru, the president. And through handshake, actually it was formalized. So I can easily say that this is a subsisting marriage. And the subsisting marriage can only have issues, number one, if it is not consummated. So in our situation, there was a consummation which was through the handshake. And then, number two, should there be any issue in any marriage, then one parties may opt for divorce. So in this situation, the factors to consider for divorce, number one is cruelty, which we've not experienced. Number two is unfaithfulness, which we've not experienced, or rather, marriage can also be a potentially polygamous marriage.
Yes.
So that is allowed. We have no problem with that, because we want to bring in other partners on board. Because we realize that for somebody to win a presidential election, then there has to be a coalition. Number three, if there is irretrievable breakdown. So in such a situation, we've not noticed any of this. So what does this mean? That this marriage is not voidable. This marriage is still subsisting. So be that as it may, there could be certain people just around, oscillating. They are delocalized, moving anyhowly, trying to frustrate this contract that was signed between Baba and Uhuru. By signing means a contract can be verbal and a contract can be in written form.
Right.
So this was a verbal form of a contract.
Why would they
So
want
to
to
me,
do that?
to me,
destabilize the marriage. Anybody who's around oscillating, like you said, not necessarily part of the union. Why would they want to?
Politics is a game of interest, and most likely, but the definition of politics is what you get where, when, how, and at what time. So probably some of the people surrounding this contract, part of the contract, maybe they are seeing that their interest won't be catered for in the foreseeable future. So according to me, so far so good. There's no problem between Baba, and there's no problem between Baba and Uhuru. So on our side, we are not experiencing anything.
So what are we to make of this complaint by a senior member of your side? And this is James Orengo, when he says what you were saying over the weekend.
James Orengo, I can't talk for him, but probably he has his sources. And being my senior in politics, I will have to respect his decisions, and I can't criticize any of his decision that he made. Why? Because he knows why he said the words. But yesterday, as you saw, we were at a rally at Kibra constituency, and you saw there was nothing at all.
What was the idea of the rally in Kibra? When was it planned, first of all? There's all these reports that this rally was actually being planned on Saturday, and even the mobilization was happening on Saturday night, and the whole agenda of the rally was different from what we saw yesterday.
We've been doing our rallies. It was just like any other rally. We've been doing our BBI rallies. So it's not a strange rally. It's not a rally that was going to raise any eyebrows. It is just like any other normal rally. So to me, there's no problem with that.
So what you're saying, therefore, if I understand you correctly, Mheshimiwa, is that whatever has been in the papers and whatever has been on social media and the rumor mills, there is no ground whatsoever for any of that.
So far, we don't have any ground. Whatever we see on the papers, that is somebody's school of thought.
So essentially, it's a figment of the imagination of the media.
It could be a creation. You know, media survives also with tension, with so long as there's how do we call it?
Drama.
There's drama. That is when they sell. So they can also opt to create some. Yes.
Okay, it could be created, but when it's reported, it's also now something that's being reported. Your members of parliament have said something. Junaid Mohammed talked about the running of the BBI secretariat, and he says the running of the BBI secretariat is being undermined by civil servants who seem to be taking orders from elsewhere. So these are all signals that there's something that is brewing that is not right.
I think even in marriage setup, there are always some issues to be solved. By the end of the day, if it is not deep, there are things that people can sit down and discuss. So even you with your wife, you can't say that from January to December, you're just okay. There could be some little issues, but those issues does not threaten the foundation of the marriage or the institution of the marriage. So these are things that could be there, but there are things that can be discussed.
Okay, whatever those issues may be.
Yes.
All right, you've talked very much and you've, really championed BBI, as Babu.
Yes.
Now, looking at BBI, were we speaking specifically about succession politics, or were we looking at BBI as a way to unify the nation, as an initiative to unify the nation? Is there a separation of the two from where you see it?
For me, BBI is about the country. We had leaders way back from after Kenya attained its independence. Those leaders who were there probably are not existing now, but they were there. But Kenya is a constant factor. The common denominator is the nation, which means that leaders were there, they went. There are those who are there as at the moment, they will go. And there are those who will come also and go. So the common denominator here is the nation. So are we building a nation for posterity, or are we building a nation for an individual? It can't be for an individual. Why? Because this will force us again to review or to amend another constitution or the 2021 constitution, which will soon be passed. In my own view and opinion, a constitution is made for posterity. And there can be a constitution without constitutionalism. Constitution in itself is just a document, but the constitutionalism is the implementation of the constitution. So in my own view, BBI is for the interest of the Kenyans. Number one, the introduction of the funds from the 15% to the 35% at the county level. Long ago, before the promulgation of the 2010 Constitution, we used to have few centers of development. We only used to hear of Kisumu City, Nakuru, Nairobi, Mombasa, and Eldoret. Right now, we have 47 centers of development, centers of progress, 47 counties. We can hear of Wajir. We can hear of Garissa. We can hear of Muranga. These are counties where devolution at least has worked. And through devolution, we've seen what has been brought on the table. We can see employment, jobs, creation of jobs are there, construction of infrastructure, there are roads, hospitals, schools, issuance of bursaries. A lot has happened at the county level. So with that, and number two, with the introduction of the World Fund, means that further money will go to the Wanjiku. You know, when a country is depressed economically, the best solution to cure that depression is to inject money into the system, to ensure that money goes into the pockets of a common mwananchi. The moment there is float, the moment there is money at the ground level, that person who has money, the Wanjiku, that person is going to a shop to probably buy unga. That person who is selling will realize that there's high demand for unga. When there's high demand for unga, he will order more from the factory. The person at the factory, having realized that he was only producing probably 100 bags, manufacturing 100 bags, he will start doing 200 bags. That means that more jobs will be created to help in the production of the 100 extra bags. Then at the industry level, that person will also realize that indeed I need raw materials. Where do I get them from? From the farmers. A farmer producing 1,000 bags will start producing 2,000 bags. More jobs, more money circulating. So money will be circulating. So when the demand is high, the supply will be high. So when we have the aggregate demand meeting the aggregate supply at the apex, when there is equilibrium price and the equilibrium quantity, we attain what is called macroeconomic equilibrium. That is the position where we will want this nation to grow economically.
I almost feel like I'm in economics 101 class, Babu. And so
That's
are
what
you
we
telling
need for
me,
the growth of this nation.
So are you telling me, what you're telling me essentially, what you're telling us is that what you're saying is what was in the minds of leaders who came about with this initiative. Whereas in the beginning, what were we hearing? We were hearing that it was unification to stop this problem of violent elections and things like that. So now it seems to have taken a different shift that is more palatable to the people, wouldn't you say?
Financially, you see, politics controls the economy of a nation, of a state. And the economy of a state is controlled by the political activities. The moment there's political animosity in a nation, the moment there's violence in a nation, number one, there's no need of losing a neighbor. There's no need of losing a friend just because of a day's event. Politics election is a day's event. You vote once. Then after that, the repercussions are better imagined than experienced. What happens in this nation is that after elections, we lose lives. After elections, we lose properties. After elections, we become each other's enemies. So because of this political animosity, we also have the BBI that is going to cure this by bringing people all together, such that there is no tribe that is going to feel left out. The moment we give it to the winner takes it all, there's that urge that, our people have been denied an opportunity. But the moment there's that inclusion, the inclusivity, we cure this political animosity. Women suffer most. You have children, I presume. Women suffer most after elections, more than even men. Why? Because the husbands, instead of going to look for food, they are going for war, political war, to defend their inherent and inalienable rights. Their kids are going for those political wars instead of concentrating somewhere else. So with that, we can easily say that politics
what is the root cause of all
affects
that
the lives. Now, the root cause is because the winner takes it all. The moment we introduce the inclusion, where everybody feels included, where a Giriama can be in the system, where a Masai can be in the system, then with that we cure the beast of violence after the elections.
Is that really the problem?
That is the major problem. As Babu Owino, I've been a victim of post-election harassment, where having won an elective seat as a member of parliament, it took me 1 year, 6 months to know whether I was the sitting member of parliament or the standing. Why? Because I was taken to High Court. There was an election petition at the High Court. My election was nullified. Then I appealed. Court of Appeal another 6 months. Supreme Court another 6 months. So 1 year, 6 months. And that is on the civil matter. Then there were 3 other criminal charges where they said that Babu Owino decided to, number one, when I had an altercation with the president, which was also misconstrued, that I abused the president's mom. And today, let me explain to you what I meant.
What did you
by
say
that.
first before you said?
I
what you
said,
meant?
yes, I want to repeat it, and I want Kenyans to listen carefully. Number one, I said, kama Bagbo alitolewa na wananchi. Bagbo was a president who was a dictator. Kama Yaya Jammeh alitolewa na wananchi, a dictator, president. Kama Gaddafi alitolewa na nchi, presumed to be a dictator, president. Wewe ni nani? Wewe ni mtoto wa umbwa. Mtoto wa umbwa is a puppy. If these bulldogs were removed by the people, you are not more of a dictator than them. In fact, it was more of a praise, because I was like, you are not a dictator like these people. Wow. So there's no way I could compare somebody's mother to presidents. It could not make sense. But in Swahili, people misconstrued it, the media specifically, misconstrued it to mean exactly just the way I said it. They didn't look at the rules of interpretation.
So
they could have asked me the literal meaning of it, the golden meaning of it, and probably the purposive approach.
In
what I meant.
Moment, Babu, let's be serious. In that moment, when you said that, or even in other moments where things are said that essentially are fuel, that they're lighters for a lot of the things that we see that come about, do you really think there's ample time to start, what did you call it? Golden interpretation and those other things. Do you think that there's time to start asking those questions?
Purposive.
Purposive meaning. So you're essentially saying that we should not take the things you say as serious.
You see, I wasn't even asked what I meant, but the media blew it out of proportion, because I told you probably they are surviving best when there is drama.
But Mheshimiwa, surely, when you say the things you say,
Yes.
and you clearly have an understanding of what the media is and what they represent, should you then not tailor the things you say so that the misinterpretation isn't as wide as you are telling us this one was? Surely.
You know, it is not for me to tell them how to interpret what I say, because having gone through a school process, that is how I reason. It is what was planted in my mind. There are certain words that if I use, that is when I stress on certain issues. But it is not what you literally should think.
All right.
Because somebody has the right to interpret what I'm saying the way they wish.
You see, the interpretation isn't in a void, Mheshimiwa. If you are in the public domain, and you have been in the public domain since you're in the university,
Yes.
all right? And if you speak and your speeches are recorded over a long period of time, then people develop a certain perspective of who they think you are. Not who you are, who they think you are.
Let me tell you something. There's something called contemporaneous similar fact evidence in law. You cannot use that fact, the contemporaneous similar fact evidence, to judge my future actions. For example, there was a case in the United Kingdom where John Mills versus the state. This person used to kill infants in a similar way and bury them in a similar way. What did he used to do? He takes an infant, kills the infant in a bathtub, then buries the infant at the back of the house, at the backyard of the house. Then the first case, he was charged for murder, and indeed it went through. Then again, a similar action took place, and he was also arrested because they were looking at the similar facts. It is like this person has been doing this thing. So we presume that the next action is the person who has probably killed this other child again, because the child has been killed the same way and buried the same way. The High Court jailed him for the second murder, but when he appealed, he was set free. Why? The judge ruled by saying that the lower court's decision erred by simply using the similar fact evidence, that contemporaneously, the fact that this thing happened in the same way, somebody else could have also done it, and it be misconstrued that this person has done it the same way.
You are a politician.
So I'm coming back to where what you asked me.
Contemporaneous circumstance that you refer to is perfect in law. But you are in the realm where perceptions, more than anything else, are the reality.
But you see, the most important thing is, if I know that I'm making statements that are actually not bad as per Babu Owino school of thought, then I don't have to please the streets. I don't have to please the streets. I'm sorry for that. But so I don't have to say a word taking into consideration that so long as I know that this word is morally right, then I don't have to worry about how you will misconstrue it. There are certain mere statements of PAF, severally misrepresentation, that Babu Owino has been quoted saying this. People are even making some memes saying that Babu Owino has said this, and I have not said that. Those are misrepresentation. So to me, I cannot guarantee what a person will think about me in any other way. Let me put it like that. So what your thoughts are your thoughts.
Okay. Just a quick question. I know we're going to go to a break in a few minutes, but you talked about the fact that this BBI coming out is supposedly going to bring people together, right? Because after an election, there's this war-like scenario that people get into when the winner takes it all. Last week, we had elections, mini elections that took place in this country. What we saw going on was shameful at best. At best. And this was a mini poll that was going on. It was not after an election, it was during the election. Officials being mishandled. Leaders, political leaders, coming into polling centers and making demands of staff when actually they had no business being there. The election was played around with all over the place before the results had even come about. Not after an election, during. And in almost all of the cases, being perpetuated by political leaders, even before the process had been completed. What would you have to say about that?
I think election should be about unifying this nation, getting a leader who is going to act as a factor or a source of unity, or a symbol of national unity. For example, the presidential level, even at the level of the county assembly, that is a person who is uniting the members of the county, the members of the ward at the ward level, his constituents or her constituents. So to me, voting is free. Voting is at times fair, because it is only in Africa where during elections people don't know how to count. During elections.
Okay.
So with these perceptions in mind, when somebody already knows that this election is going to be rigged, there is no trust even in the body that is conducting election. That is why now this violence are coming up. But how do we cure this? The moment we put up strong systems, when it comes to the interior department that is providing law and order through the police should be a little bit tighter in keeping peace, maintaining law and order. And number two, when it comes to the issue of the bodies to conduct elections, because when we are going for elections, we already have a perceived mentality that this election is going to be skewed.
Perceived by whom?
You see, let us not lie. Even you, when you go voting, you have a perception that probably I'm just going to vote, but there's a result that I expect.
Actually, Mheshimiwa, if you look at the turnouts of our elections, the opposite would be true. People go there in the hope that their votes will count. If people felt that the vote wouldn't count, we would see fewer and fewer people
because
voting.
of what has happened before.
Yes.
Right now, we are approaching 2022 where we'll be having another election. So in 2022, already people are getting worried that, number one, we need to get a fresh body to conduct election. That is, we need to do away with the current commissioners, IBC commissioners. Why? Because of the previous, probably the habitual offense that they were committing in the previous elections. So
you just told us a few minutes ago, Babu, that you cannot take somebody's habitual behavior and
I'm a
use
lawyer.
that to say.
I'm a lawyer, so
that
in
they
this
would
case, I'm
behave the same
defending
way
my
in the future.
statement.
So you just told us this.
In
You just told us
this
this a
case,
few
I'm
minutes
defending
ago.
I'm defending my
You will dance around this.
You see,
Let's take a break and then we come back and continue this conversation. We're having a conversation with Babu Owino, the MP for Embakasi East, talking about BBI, talking about politics, talking about his brand of politics as well. Of course, people would like to understand who Babu Owino and his thinking, the way he speaks and what is going on behind his mind. And we want to understand that as well.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.
Babu, we are now going to spend the next half an hour understanding Babu.
Yes.
Babu the politician and Babu your brand of politics and what you do. So first of all, those who know you as student leader, and you're a student leader for so many years. How many years were you in university?
Thank you very much. I was the longest serving student leader on earth.
On earth, even. Wow.
Yeah,
okay.
so far
Taking this thing global. All right.
because I served for a period of 4 terms, and globally, there is none who has ever served for a period of 4 terms. That's what
you're
I'm
not
saying.
kidding.
Yeah, so I'm saying I was the longest serving student leader on earth. I joined the University of Nairobi just immediately after I did my A-levels. And in A-levels, I did my diploma courses, 6 diplomas. That is from 2007 and 2008. Then around October, I joined the University of Nairobi in 2008. Then in 2012, I graduated in actuarial science with the first class honors. So I want Kenyans to follow it keenly so that they don't misconstrue that the person talking here overstayed at the university to mean that probably was an academic orphan or an academic dwarf or an academic lilywat.
Wow.
Yeah. So in 2012, I graduated first class honors, actuarial science. 2013, went back to the university to 2014, 1 year, did my master's in actuarial science. The same 2014, joined School of Law, Parklands. Did my law degree for 4 years. Then graduated with second class upper division. Then did my master's in law. So I took 4-4-1-1. That was
10 years.
10 years at the university in pursuit of knowledge, acquisition of knowledge. So in the process, I also became a student leader.
Okay.
And students kept on re-electing me because of the great work. In fact, I never wanted to recontest at any
They are the ones
single
who
time.
insisted that
Democratically, I told them that let me give a chance to others. But they said, Babu, it is you who can solve our problems, our challenges. So please vie again and again and again. So that is what was happening at the university.
So you're an actuary and a lawyer.
Yes.
Okay. Admitted to the bar?
Not yet.
The diplomas, what were they in?
I did diploma in pure mathematics, diploma in physics, diploma in accounting, diploma in mechanics, diploma in statistics, and diploma in chemistry.
Why?
So essentially,
You have more degrees than a thermometer. You're that guy.
I have 6 diplomas
Well, yeah.
and 4 degrees.
would one be wrong in saying that you are a career student?
Life is about, or education is about acquisition of knowledge. It never ends. In fact, I promised my mom that I will study up to the point where I'll reach and see a signboard written, no school ahead, which you will never see. So in pursuit of knowledge, or rather education, you find that you acquire more knowledge in the process. And even today, you are in the process of, you started by reading a newspaper, analyzing a newspaper. All this is just process of acquisition of knowledge. It is constant and consistent, and it makes you also young.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm listening to you. I'm listening to you say these things about your pursuit for knowledge, etc. And then I've also heard some of the things that you've said
Yes.
over time during your political career.
Yes.
And some of them have not been really palatable, Babu.
Yes.
Why?
Those are political statements.
Okay.
And
Explain,
political
please.
statements, probably if you mention, then I will explain as at what you mean exactly, because I don't know what
Some
you
of them
meant.
I've had to expunge from my memory because they just.
For example?
I mean, like I said, I don't.
Like that's Papi one, all
Yes,
right?
yes.
You're coming here now, you're explaining, I was coming from this angle and this is what I meant.
Yes.
But this is not an everyday speech, even on a
Yes.
political rally. No speaker before you or speaker after you was using those kind of examples. When it's taken by the public, it's taken like, all right, what exactly is Babu saying? Babu is calling the president the child of a dog. This, we have seen this kind of statements before, and especially going by the fact that we even have a law that bars hate speech. When Babu Owino, this very well-educated person who is also a lawyer, stands up and speaks like this, doesn't he consider the fact that the people who are listening, his audience, may not understand what is going on in his mind?
Number one, in my culture, as a Luo, the child of a dog, puppy, we call Nyagwogwa. Nyagwogwa, the puppy, means a person we love. Even human beings can call, in Luo culture, and any Luo can attest to this, can call another person Nyagwogwa, puppy, meaning the person you cherish and love. So if we expanded, if we looked at the golden meaning of this thing, I was actually praising the president.
Sure, but do
Again,
you think that they would understand that for people who don't understand that culture?
But I told you, that what I say and what you construe, you know, it also depends on you as a person. If you are in my line of thought, probably it's too much education. And you know, they say
That you're suffering
too much
from.
education is at times dangerous. However, too little also takes you nowhere. So,
You know, Mheshimiwa, I mentioned the role of perception in your chosen line of work. Huh?
yes,
Now, there's an unfortunate incident that you were associated with.
yes,
A gentleman that was known as DJ Evolve
yes,
got shot. And the media was in a frenzy about it. There were all sorts of reasons given as to what happened, what your role was, how you understood it, the whole caboodle.
yes.
Now, you tell us what happened and what we should actually understand from what had happened.
Thank you. You know, as much as I would really love to discuss this topic, I would really love to do it, and I will love to come back here. You create for me like probably half a day just to discuss the content of this case. As at now, the matter is before a court of law, and my hands are tied. It is sub judice. But once this matter is done, I will personally come here. You will not even call me. I will walk in every media station. I will want to discuss
Babu,
this issue,
you know,
because this
LLM,
issue
LLM,
is going to be part
I
and
haven't
parcel
studied law,
of my
but-
life.
But Babu, surely you know very well, we're not asking you to discuss.
No, today, if I start
the
just
merits-
opening up,
the
I'm
merits
very sure
of that court case.
before you proceed.
It is about the issues
If I-
surrounding this issue, this court case.
You see, when you start talking about the corroborated evidence about it, it's still a matter of law. The DPP, I'm very sure, is watching this interview. And after this, I'll not even get into my car. They'll just have to come for me, and I'll go with them. So I don't want to discuss it because I know I'm going to be held accountable. And I would love to do it. Why? Because also for my life, my family, the people that I serve in Embakasi's constituency, and also Kenyans would want to know exactly what happened. I will love to do it. It is an issue that I can't run away from.
Educate us on the law then.
Yes.
What is it that you are prevented from actually saying?
Just to even mention that name. Because when I was even barred from drinking alcohol. I was even barred from going to a club.
How has that worked out?
Actually, it is good for me because actually, for me, the idea of not drinking has made me serve my people more. I used to serve them, but actually I'm creating more time for family, more time for my people. And I think it is a very good progress on my side. It is a very big plus, and I thank the court for doing that. Yeah.
When you look at pursuit of justice and justice for, somebody who is in a privileged position such as yourself and one of your ordinary constituents, okay? Something happens and they have to go through court. From your own experience of, this particular case going through court, what is it that you would say? Is there equity or equality in access to justice?
Among the maxims of equity, actually, equity is equality. That is one of the maxims. Number two, he who comes to equity must come with clean hands. Those are just some of the few maxims of equity. In our legal system, we have the retributive justice, which calls for punishment. And we have the restorative justice, which calls for alternative dispute resolution mechanisms. If you were King Solomon making a decision about the child, or rather, the department of the DPP, let me use that. If they were the King Solomon as at that time, I'm very sure they would have said, let us cut the baby into two and give each person. They would have gone for retributive justice. Let us punish. We must punish whatsoever. Why don't we also think about restorative justice so that we restore how things were? We use alternative dispute resolution mechanisms as enshrined in the Constitution. So in my own view, let us not just think about justice as punishment.
Which more in our system, do we have adequate examples of restorative justice?
Actually, we have. There are so many cases that have been withdrawn based on restorative justice, based on compensation, based on mediation processes, arbitration processes, reconciliation processes. So many.
You know, the reason why I'm sure even City is heading down this road is looking at your constituents, many of them, or not even just even those in the neighboring constituencies in other parts of the country, they sit back and they look at, the kind of justice that ordinary Kenyans go through, the route that they are taken, and then they look at those who have positions of influence and how they are treated by the same system that is justice. And they see some sort of disparities. They see a disparity in terms of how quick action is taken. They see a disparity in terms of how lenient the punishment would be. Even if we're talking about the restorative justice, how it's handled. And there's a clear disparity between that. Do you feel that they're justified to feel that way?
I'm an ordinary citizen.
Actually, no.
Let me tell you. Let me just proceed.
Yes.
Born by ordinary parents.
Yes.
Way back from the slums. Who's trying to make also both ends meet. Elected by ordinary people. I was elected from among the ordinary people. So it's not about being a member of parliament. It is not about my position that can be used to influence anything. The matter is before a court of law. If I'm found guilty, there is no problem. I'm willing to serve. I have no problem. Jails are meant for human beings. I will serve my term. I will live my life. I will carry my own cross. If I'm not also guilty, Kenyans also should accept. So I can leave it at that.
Mheshimiwa, sometimes when we want to look at a certain perspective, especially with reference to politicians, and because we're in the media, we sound like we are starting off from a certain position of bias or information that lends itself in a certain direction. And I would argue, personally, I do. And I do because of, again, what I have seen, just generally speaking, about our politicians. And one of the traits that I have found to be a commonality with many politicians is they are unreliable.
Why would you elect me if you don't trust me? Number one, not all politicians are leaders, and not all leaders are politicians. But some politicians are also leaders. I was elected on the ground that I would serve my people. I would work for them. That is exactly what I'm doing. If you ask any member of Embakasi's constituency, or rather give an opportunity to any member, invite them to make a call, whether you voted for me or not, ask them, is Babu Owino a leader? Is he serving you? Is he working for you? I can tell you that 100% of them will tell you that I'm working, I'm delivering on what I promised my people. As Babu Owino, I'll not just be, those who will not vote for me for my re-election will not vote for me because probably they dislike my face. But not because of development issues. Yes. So, not every politician is a liar. Not every politician is unreliable. And it is the same people who are also going to elect the same different politicians or the same politicians or leaders. So they have an opportunity, they have the yardstick to measure that did this person meet the threshold that we required. If the person never met the threshold, then you have the authority, you are the boss as the voter to ensure that this person does not get back in that position. Then you get another person whom you think is reliable. But I can talk on behalf of Babu Owino that in 2022, in fact, in Embakasi East constituency, I'm going to vie unopposed.
Do you think there's any need for okay?
If re-election is based on development.
If it's based on development,
Yes.
which is what
Which
I'm
is-
assuming now
which
is your
is based
ticket,
on development.
Is that ticket upon which you want to now run in 2022? Do you think that there's need for some kind of sanitization in the political leadership in this country?
I think politics is politics everywhere in the world, not just in Kenya. We hear of what's happening in Uganda. We hear the United States of America, what happened, even the goons that went to Capitol Hill. So it's not just in Kenya.
But now that we are here, and
We
having
hear
this
of what
conversation-
happens in Russia.
Right. But now that we are here in Kenya at this moment, talking with you, amongst your colleagues and what you see, honestly, do you think that there's some sanitization that's necessary among the political class in this country?
I think
If you
I-
were
I
to
will-
answer me honestly, void of the legalese.
I think I will not talk blanketly, and also I will not be an advocate for my colleagues. Because when a person was elected, they knew why they were elected. They knew that they're supposed to deliver on their manifesto. So that is what exactly they're supposed to do. For those who haven't delivered, it is upon the electorates. Again, I'm not the boss. I'm not the judge. I don't hold the yardstick. It is upon the electorates who will decide. So I cannot come from a moral, assuming that I'm very moral. I won't talk about that, because even the Bible says that no man is righteous before the living God. So everybody has a speck,
Right.
if not a log. Yes.
Babu, do you do any business with government?
That will be conflict of interest. Because I'm already working for the government, or rather with the government, that will be conflict of interest. So I can't do.
So is there any company that is arm's length associated with you that does business with government?
Never.
None at all.
Never.
So what is
None
it that
at all.
we saw during the KEMSA hearings? And there was at a point where there was a lot of conversation,
Yes, some commotion.
some commotion,
Yes.
that seemed to imply that Babu Owino knows some of the suppliers of KEMSA who are
Let
being
me tell
shielded
you
in
something,
this.
my brother. When we're in a committee, you don't go to a committee with a fixed mind. We are investigating. The Constitution is clear. Everybody is innocent until proven guilty. So with that in mind, you don't just come because you're a member of parliament, just because you want to pin somebody down. You can pin somebody down without shouting at somebody, just conversing, asking relevant questions. Do you know what caused the commotion? A colleague, asked one simple question, that this lady wrote a letter to KEMSA. The witness wrote a letter to KEMSA. Of course, when you write a letter to KEMSA, the letter will go to the CEO direct. That is the person running KEMSA.
Organization.
Then the lady is asking, who exactly did you write this letter to? So that is where and she insisted, and she didn't want us to proceed without that question being answered. Then I lifted my hand and said, let's do our job, but let us give the devil her due. This lady wrote a letter to KEMSA. It is normal, common knowledge, that this letter will go to the CEO. So when I raised that, now declare your interest, Babu. I told her that, yes, I have an interest in this case, and my interest is to protect the public funds. But let us not waste time to ask where this letter was going to. You know, in the Constitution, procedural technicalities should not prevent you from obtaining substantive justice. Should not at all, just because of the normal procedures.
Mujime, let me understand
So-
something.
so-
Are you saying
Let me
okay, please.
let me finish it
Proceed
first.
there. Yes.
So when she insisted about where the letter was going to, I interjected and said this letter is going to the CEO. That is the only thing that brought issues there, of which it was clear. You could see that when a letter is written to KEMSA, it has to go to the CEO, and the
It's addressed
CEO
to the
even
CEO.
signed there, received by the CEO. So I don't want to criticize my colleagues so much, but at least certain things are common
Actually,
knowledge.
I'm glad you bring this up because it isn't so much criticism. What we are saying here is looking at the reality, not truth, reality and the facts of a situation and speaking the truth to it and calling it by its name. You see, it's not picking on your colleague. It's not trying to make your colleague look bad. If a letter is written to KEMSA, and I wanted to understand this, it's addressed to KEMSA. You're saying it won't end up with HR, it won't end up with, it'll just go directly to the CEO.
You see, if you write a letter to KEMSA, if you wanted to write a letter to HR, you will be specific to HR. If you wanted to write a letter to CEO, you would be specific to the CEO.
Yes.
But if you write a letter without
Any
the
specific
specific
reference.
address,
Yes.
then that letter will go to the CEO. It is just as obvious as that. So I was just trying to argue that procedural technicalities cannot override substantive justice. We wanted to get into the core issues, not about who received the letter, who never received the letter. We want to talk about the funds. How are these funds expropriated, pilfered, defrauded? That is what we wanted to get to. We didn't want to get about, in fact, that was wastage of the committee's time and public funds in our committee.
Is
to
this
waste time.
committee wasting our time as the taxpayer? Is it wasting
It's not.
our funds as a
It's
taxpayer?
not.
Are we likely to get a report that comes out of this committee that tells us this is what happened? We saw the same health committee investigated this matter. Now it's public accounts investigating this matter. The Senate investigating this matter. Why?
As at the moment, we are still doing investigation, and the reports must be presented before the House, before the National Assembly, before all the members to discuss it. And I'm very sure we've already found people who supplied air, never supplied anything at all. I don't want to discuss it at this stage, but we are going to do a report about that.
Babu, thank you very much for joining us today. It's already coming to the top of the hour. We've had some conversations, a lot of BBI conversations that's going to be happening in coming weeks. So we'll invite you again. Let's engage on those issues that you're saying, in our wards are going to receive more money, constituencies and all. And let's engage on those so we can get to understand better. What message would you like to, as a young political leader in this country, as one who the majority of the population look up to and they associate with, what is it that you'd like to tell them?
Number one, in discussion of even youth interest that I never touched, with the BBI, there will be the provision of the 7 years tax holiday, where youth will be given an opportunity to do business. Then after a period of 7 years, we'll start paying taxes. That is a sufficient time for progress, for development. There will be the National Youth Commission, where youth matters, challenges will be directed to that commission, matters and employment, hoping that they will be solved if there will be constitutionalism, implementation, which has been part of the problem that we've had before. There will be the issue of the HELB. The HELB loan will be repaid after a period of 4 years, unlike the way HELB normally just harasses you immediately. You clear campus, you don't even know where you are going to get a house to stay, and they're already harassing you. They want their money. So to the youth in this nation, I want to urge you never to give up. When I look at you, I see myself. When I look at myself, I see you. I know it's possible. I know you can make it at any level. Don't fear failing, because if you never fail, then you never tried. Move forward. If you must fall, fall forward. Let your feet be on the ground and eyes in the sky. I believe that you can make it. In 2022, let us contest for these elective positions. The youth make the majority, or around 65% of the Kenyan populace. I know you can be a member of county assembly, you can be a member of the National Assembly, you can be a member of the Senate, you can be a governor. With president, we will discuss that, because there's somebody who's going for that, so don't go for that. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Paul Ongili Owino, the teetotaler MP for Embakasi East constituency. Babu Owino hasn't had a drink of alcohol since the court ordered him not to.
Even touched a glass.
Not even touched a glass.
Of whiskey.
Thank you very much for tuning into the Situation Room today. Join us again tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. We will be here with you. CT Muga, Nduoko, Eric Latif, wishing you a lovely day. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room. the only way to start your day. Spice up your life.